name is Tim Behrens. The name of this program is Jesus and Tim in Las Vegas. And if you missed today's program at the conclusion, you can hear it by going to www.jesusandtim.org and click on Archive and Schedule, and Mark Britton will have that up for you. I'm so grateful to the Lord for his help and for you listening and for your prayers. My goal every day is to get about 300 tracts out on the bridges of Las Vegas or downtown on Fremont Street Experience when Drew and Robert and Ace aren't down there. That's usually on a Sunday night or a Wednesday night. And what a joy it is to be able to do that. And I wouldn't be able to do it without those prayers of yours. We were to have another guest on today, and I asked him to confirm it with me yesterday, and I never heard back from him. So I asked my friend Robert Morey if he could come in and do the program with me. So I'll have to reschedule my guest, see if we can get him back at some other future date. But Dr. Morey is the smartest person I know, and next to my father, of course, in Jesus. And it's a delight to have him on. Tim and Al interviewed him for years on Islam and many other traits. He's got a wonderful tract called Islam, a White Slaver's Religion, which talks about Muhammad being a white man. Now, this is from their writings. This isn't from Harvest House. From their writings in the Hadith and also in the Quran, some of the bigoted references they have to black folks. Surah 39:60 saying all those going to hell will be given black faces. All those going to paradise will be given white faces. If a black person were to read that in the Quran, why would you stay a Muslim? And we're going to talk with Dr. Morey about Islam today. First, I want to talk a little bit about Chrislam, but before we do, give us a little background of who you are. And we know you came from your mom, but other than that.
Well, my name is Dr. Morey, and I have a Ph.D. in Islamic Studies, as well as 3 other doctorates. I have written over 60 books, including 2 textbooks on Islam. So when someone talks to me about Islam, I'll know in 5 seconds whether or not they know what they're talking about. But, for example, yesterday, you were over at my home, and we were watching Hannity, and they were having a big cat fight between Muslims and non-Muslims on his show. And, of course, it was pulling the ignorance as they put it all together. First thing you have to understand, Tim, there is no such thing as Islam. There is no such thing as Christianity. Those are metaphors, figures of speech. For example, what we call Islam is a cacophony of conflicting, murderously contradicting religions that each claim to be Islam. For example, in Iraq right now, the Shia and the Sunni are killing each other. Some of you are aware of the fact that the next terrorist act in Iraq, they've conquered most of the major cities. They just got the major oil refinery. Gas has gone up because of what's happening there. Now, what people forget is that Iraq was basically Sunni, Iran was basically Shia. In the last war, over 1 million people died. So when someone says, well, what about Islam? I said, which Islam? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Which one will you pick and which one will go? So the Sunni kills the Shia kills the Aga Khan. They attack the Baha'i and the followers of the Baha'u'llah, the whirling dervishes. In other words, Islam is a word on a piece of paper. And when someone said Islam is a religion of peace, that means they're an ignorant boob.
All right, let me quote our former president. This is, I heard this on the Hal Lindsey program on Friday. This is a week after the 9/11 attacks. President George W. Bush spoke at an Islamic center there in New York City. I'm quoting him now. He said, "The face of terror is not the true faith of Islam. That's not what Islam is all about. Islam is peace." Now, Dr. Morey, are you saying our former President George W. Bush is an ignorant boob?
Oh, absolutely. Anyone knows he barely got out of college. He was a party boy. All you got to do is look at his grades. And he is. He's an ignorant boob.
Do you think he really believed this, or do you think he's just saying that to be politically expedient?
Probably both. Remember the picture of him walking hand in hand with the Prince Abdullah of the Saudi family. And see, this is the problem. Christianity doesn't exist per se. You've got the Catholic, the Protestant, you've got the Mormon, the Jehovah's Witness. In other words, it's a name on a piece of paper for many different contradictory groups. So, like yesterday, watching Hannity, I got so upset because they weren't getting to the heart of the issue, which is this. If I had been on the program, I would confront the Muslim representative and ask this. Did Muhammad himself ever go kill anybody? Did he ever kill anyone? Yes or no, according to the hadiths. Did he ever rape anyone? Yes or no?
Tell us what the hadiths are.
The hadiths, the accepted hadiths, are the second inspired works of, particularly of the Sunni Muslim. Matter of fact, in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and places where that type of Islam is dominant, it's the death penalty if you deny Sahih al-Bukhari. Now, Sahih al-Bukhari, his 9 volumes, 6,000 pages.
You've read them all.
Of course, every page. It's in my book, Islamic Invasion. I'm the first Western scholar. Before 9/11, I went through not only Sahih al-Bukhari, 9 volumes, I also did Sahih Muslim, which is another 4 volumes, which is another, let's say, 4,000. That's 10,000 pages, and then so forth. And what you have is this. It is an inspired commentary on the Quran. The Quran could mention a chapter entitled The Elephant. What elephant? Where? Who? Well, the Hadith tells us. But what I'm saying is this. When it comes to the question, are these terrorists acting according to the example and teaching of Muhammad? That's the question. Now, when, let's say, the Catholics in Northern Ireland blew up a school bus, some would say, you see, Christianity has violence. Now, wait a second. Are those Catholic terrorists following the example and teaching of Jesus? Jesus never went out and killed anybody, raped anybody, robbed anybody. Muhammad did. He went out 21 times on jihad and murdered people. He had people murdered by his commands. Here's an old man. He was in the marketplace, and he saw the Muslims getting down to pray toward Mecca, which was the old pagan moon god shrine. And they had dirt on their forehead. They didn't use prayer rugs at that point. So he said, if that is all it is to being a holy person, and he picked up some dirt, rubbed it on his forehead, and laughed at him. So they went and told Muhammad, it's right there in their own writing. He made fun of us. Muhammad said, go slit his throat. They went and they slit the throat of a senior citizen for cracking a joke. So to me, I don't care what you believe about Islam. I don't care what you believe about Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism. Those are words on a piece of paper. What you need to do is to compare the teachings and life of Jesus to Muhammad, Siddhartha, the founder of Buddhism, to compare it to the gurus, Rajneesh of the Hindus. Compare the founders in their teachings and in their lives. Then you will find out that true Islam, regardless of what you want to call it, is a violent, evil religion.
So the terrorists are really the true Muslims. They're the ones who are following Muhammad.
The issue is who is living out, by example, what Muhammad taught and how he lived. And it comes out that the terrorists are doing exactly what Muhammad did. That's why the liberal Muslim, and they had one, there was a guy, keeps trying to say, well, if you attack Islam, this is racism. It's Islamophobia. And no, the issue is Muhammad. Muhammad. There is no such thing as Islam or Christianity, Hinduism, or whatever you want to call it. It's a cacophony of conflicting, contradictory groups that ignore them. What you do is focus on the Muhammad as depicted in the Quran and in the accepted hadiths compared with the Jesus of the four Gospels.
You told me once that 33,000 times in the Quran and Hadith they call for our death.
Yeah.
The infidels.
Now we have computers. It's wonderful. And the computer went through and counted the number of times that Muhammad ordered his followers to kill non-Muslims, the infidel, the unbeliever. The computer counted over 33,000 times he said, kill them. And thus people like bin Laden, and I think you remember I was the first one to bring him up in national media on the Duffy show, KKLA. When no one had heard of him, and I started talking about bin Laden. Matter of fact, the Santa Ana FBI showed up at my house. Said, who is this guy you're talking about is behind the bomb? I said, you should know about him. CIA knows about him. They just won't tell you. So, yes, I know about all of these terrorists. I've dealt with them. That's why the Hamas has me on a death list. I can't go to certain countries. I would be dead. And there goes the peaceful business. Muhammad was not a peaceful man. He was a man of war, a man of rape and murder. So when someone tries to combine Christianity and Islam, I have to ask, are they saying that Jesus and Muhammad can walk hand in hand down the path of harmony?
So you're saying you don't believe in Chrislam, the combination?
Well, no. If you mean by that, there are humanistic, liberal Muslims who have been sufficiently secularized by Western society, and if there are humanistic, secularized, quote, Christians, and again, remember, to be a Christian is a word on a piece of paper. To say you're a Christian doesn't imply you believe in anything. There are people who claim to be Christians who don't believe in the Trinity. They don't believe Jesus was the Son of God. There are people who claim to be Muslims who don't believe in jihad. When you have secular, humanistic, relativistic religious leaders, then you have what the Pope had in the famous Cathedral of Assisi, where he brought them all together, and he had even Robert Schuller and others, and there were Hindus and Buddhists and Greek Orthodox and Russian Orthodox, there were Protestants and, of course, Roman Catholic. They all sat there, and I watched the show. I watched it on television. And what they were proving is that birds of a feather do what, Tim?
Flock together.
And these are people who don't believe in absolute truth. Now, I just saw yesterday a bumper sticker on a truck that made me want to gag and get a barf bag. You ever seen this bumper sticker that has the crescent moon, standing for the moon god?
Coexist.
And then it has the symbol for Hinduism, Buddhism, and down at the very end is a cross. And the idiot who has that bumper sticker says, oh, I believe in all of them, which means, usually is she, they don't believe in any of them.
No.
See, you can't believe in all of them. It means you don't believe in any of them.
What if the Pope was here, though, and didn't Jesus talk, he says, about unity? You know, didn't he encourage unity amongst his followers?
Yeah, but there's your kicker. Did he say we want to join with the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Zealots, the Herodians? No.
Right.
Did he say he wanted to join with the Roman pagans who set up a statue of Caesar right there in the temple, or sacrificed a pig? No. Jesus never called for believers and unbelievers to join. It was unity in truth. In truth. Yeah. So you have those who say, I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of everything, etc., etc. If I run across someone who believes in the same Jesus I believe in, that he was the second person of the Trinity, he pre-existed his conception in the womb of the Virgin Mary, he was virgin-born, he was sinless, he did his mighty miracles, he died for our sins, he arose again bodily, physically, ascended into heaven, sits at the right hand of God the Father Almighty. From thence he shall come to judge the living and the dead. And we both confess we believe in the resurrection of the body. Yeah, I have unity with that person.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't mean I joined with someone who says the Trinity is not true. And the Quran says, now here's the kicker. It's in my book, Islamic Invasion. Go to Amazon.com. Hello. Mm-hmm. Type in Robert A. Morey, M-O-R-E-Y. You'll see my book. You can order it.
The Islamic Invasion.
Islamic Invasion. Also, How to Win the War Against Radical Islam, read by generals in the Pentagon, General Frank being one of the ones. And it's very, very simple. The Quran says that Christians believe in the Trinity of the Father, the Mother, and the Son. They think Mary's the second person of the Trinity. Well, that's why the Encyclopedia Britannica says the Quran doesn't even have the Christian idea of the Trinity right. It's not a mother and a father through intercourse produced a son. So they have it all wrong from beginning to end.
Why is Rome able to, connect with Islam and agree with them so much?
Well, if you can't, you've got to get along and go along. This is why when the Muslims wanted to build a mosque right in Vatican City, the Pope said no. He said, when you allow us to build a Catholic church at Mecca, then you'll get your mosque. Now, there is a line in the sand. But again, modern Roman Catholicism is not the old Catholicism from the Council of Trent and the Counter-Reformation. Modern Catholics, throughout all of the saints, remember that big hullabaloo where they got rid of the saints, St. George and this saint, they got rid of them. You no longer are denied the eating of meat on Friday, which was simply legislated to help the fishmongers in Italy. In other words, modern Roman Catholicism is now humanistic, secularized, relativistic, and for that reason, many Roman Catholic scholars no longer believe in the Bible.
Rob Walters on his program, which is an excellent program. You can hear it here on KKVV on Saturdays from 7 to 7:45, said this morning that President Obama has a man working in the Department of Homeland Security who's a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. Can't imagine why a Christian quote-unquote president would do that.
Obama's not a Christian by any... Again, see, there's a word on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
I called the church, quote-unquote, that's another misnomer, it's nothing but a word on a piece of paper, and I asked the secretary...
This is the church in Chicago.
Yes, United Church of Christ. I said, can I become a member of your church even if I do not believe that Jesus is the Son of God? And she said, of course, we're inclusive in this church. So you could be a Muslim and be a member of that church, or be a Buddhist, a Hindu, a New Age, or whatever you want to be. So you've got to understand, he kowtows to the Muslims because he didn't want terrorist acts to be done while he was president, because it would look bad for other Democrats. Now, right now, he has a tiger by the tail. He just made the biggest bouffon of his entire presidency by trading 4 hardened, murderous... Five hardened terrorists for a guy who, based upon all evidence, is a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
A traitor.
Benedict Arnold.
Yeah, so he gave back to the Muslims terrorists, and what did we get in return? A traitor.
How would you reach, we only have a couple minutes left, how would you reach a Muslim for Christ?
Well, number one, you don't know what you're dealing with. Someone says they're Muslim, that doesn't mean anything. You have to look at them. Do they wear the cap and have a big beard, and they wear looks like a bathrobe and little slippers?
Mm-hmm.
Are their wives veiled? If they're not, then you're not dealing with someone who's part of the what we call true believers, 10%.
Mm-hmm.
You may be dealing with someone who doesn't have a clue what the Quran teaches. So what you have to do in dealing with Muslim people is, number one, say, I'm not interested in defending Christianity or Roman Catholicism or whatever. I'm not interested in attacking Islam because no one knows what that is either. I'm only interested in what Muhammad did and what he taught. How can you believe in Muhammad when he said Jews are able to transform into monkeys, rats, and pigs?
That was in the NIV, though, wasn't it?
In other words, you have to deal with Muhammad. That's in my book, Islamic Invasion, and How to Win the War Against Radical Islam. And then we also sell a wonderful comic book. You'd have to go to the ministry for that. Muhammad's Believe It or Else by Abdullah Aziz. You're dealing with Muhammad and compare him with Jesus.
Okay. And the website, faithdefenders.com?
Faithdefenders.com. It's the ministry that circles the globe. People from the Middle East are always getting online. You can read many articles. I give you Islam updates, what's happening around the world. And I just got vindicated again. We just put it up.
Good.
A big site saying what's happening. Well, I already said what was happening years ago.
But you have tracks on dealing with Hinduism and Buddhism,
yes,
Roman Catholicism.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
Really cover
and again,
them.
see, all of those are words on
Right.
pieces of paper
Right.
to identify what you're talking about.
Dr. Robert Morey, a dear friend, he's going to be my guest the whole month of July. We'll talk about some of these other religions, Hinduism, Buddhism.
Oh,
so
they can also call 1-800-41-TRUTH. Leave your name and address. 1-800-41, then the word truth.
Very good. If you missed today's program, go to www.jesusandandtim.org. Click on Archive and Schedule, and Mark will have that up for you. We should have the newsletter, the June-July newsletter for you here in just a few days. Dave Peffley is putting that on. Thank you so much, my friends. I'll be out on streets, actually the bridges of Las Vegas with tracts this afternoon. Be praying that God will touch hearts. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Morey, once again, for being with us on Jesus and Tim in Las Vegas. God bless you, my friend.
Well, old Buddha was a man, and I'm sure that he meant well. But I pray for his disciples, lest they wind up in hell. And I'm sure that old Muhammad thought he knew the way, but it won't be Hare Krishna we stand before on the judgment day. No, it won't be old Buddha that's sitting